Are you looking for a minimalist boot that looks great, is extremely comfortable, and performs well in the outdoors? The Lenka York just might be the answer. Great styling, a very comfortable barefoot experience, and amazing traction are just a few of the things we really like about this shoe, but there is a ton more we have to say about it. We've been looking for a brand to compete with Lems, and if the York is any indication of the rest of the lineup from Lenka, then we just might have found it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sons of Sever YouTube channel, where there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad gear. My name is Eric, and today my brother Chris and I are bringing you a review of our very first shoe from Lenka. So we've reviewed a ton of different barefoot brands, but this is going to be the first one from them, so we are excited to bring it to you. So far, what we've experienced is really good, and we're excited to talk about the things that we like and what we don't like about their York barefoot boot. As always, there's timestamps down in the description. If you want to skip forward to a certain part of the video, feel free to do that, but I am going to send it over to Chris so that he can get it started telling you about our likes of the shoe.
Kicking off my likes of the Lenka York, there are a lot of things to like. The first thing I want to mention is the very generous toe box, probably one of the widest toe box we've worked with so far. I wouldn't call it too wide. It feels very pleasant to my foot, but definitely wider than Lems or Feelgrounds or Gym Green. Maybe not as wide as the Barefoot Bruin, which is extra wide. We were actually wearing these while we were hanging out with Weston at Rosanville, if you watch his channel. So we let him handle one of these for a little bit to give just a surface level opinion. He said that the construction is interesting because while it has that wide toe box, the paneling makes it look a little bit slimmer than it actually is. So he didn't give us his official opinion because he's got his scale of clown to cool for the wide toe boxes of barefoot shoes. But if I had to give an opinion, I would say this looks nice and slim, but it has that nice roomy toe box. Next, I really want to focus on the outsole. Now, I don't know the stack height of this shoe. That's not something Lenka focuses on, and my guess is between what I think is about a 4mm insole and the outsole without the lugs here, which are 4mm, probably looking at somewhere between 7 and 10mm. Add in those 4mm lugs, and we're looking at somewhere between like 10 and 14. I'd lean towards that 14mm total if you're including the lugs. And what this does is it allows the boot to be really flexible and the sole to be very minimal, which Lenka prioritizes, but somehow it feels more protective than more thin-soled boots. And the traction pattern on this thing with those lugs is one of the best traction patterns we've worked with so far. These teeth dig into snow really nice. They actually keep you pretty sturdy on ice. I would say they're only second to the Gym Green Barefoot African Ranger when it comes to ice, and then obviously on dry or wet terrain that does not have snow or ice on it, it's going to be absolutely 100% sure-footed for you. This is going to give some of the Lems offerings that we love a run for their money, because that's one of the things we love about Lems boots the most, is they're very deliberate with their traction patterns. They want you to be extremely sure-footed, and I think that Lenka nails this. The waterproofing was 100%. There is one thing we think they could improve when it comes to the waterproofing features, but we'll talk about that in the dislikes. The last thing I want to talk about is that I've actually come around to lace hooks. Rosanville convinced me, he showed me how to set them up properly, and I think that I have now reserved myself to liking single hook designs. So I don't want a boot that has a bunch of hooks, but I really like having the single hook where I can keep my boot tied, slip it on, pull it as tight as I need, and then just slip the laces up into the hooks. These are the kinds of hooks that are tight enough that the laces kind of snap into them, so you don't need to worry about your laces randomly coming out. And the way that they taper that hook in, I'll do some B-roll close-ups that show you. I don't think it's going to be a snag hazard on the materials around you just as you're going about your day. I know Eric had an issue with one boot with lace hooks where it almost sliced open his brand new car's seats. So that's something. Other people have had them hook on branches and other things like that. I think that they were very deliberate about that hook design and that it works really, really nicely. With all my likes and gushings out of the way about the Lenka York, I'm now going to pass things over to Eric to talk about his likes.
All right, so when it comes to my likes of the Lenka York, the first one that I'm going to talk about is the traction pattern. I need to echo a little bit of what Chris was saying here because we've been so impressed with it. We took this boot on the same hike that we took the Saguaro Brave 3. If you watched our review of that, you know that we did not like it very much at all. And a big part of that was the traction that it had. The traction on that Saguaro boot is very, very poor. And we were standing at the bottom of this waterfall, and it's very slick, and we had the Saguaros on, and I didn't feel safe at all walking around with that boot on. And then we switched to the Lenkas with this very awesome traction pattern that you can see there, and the rubber did a good job of sticking, and I think that the teeth do a good job of biting, and I immediately felt so much more secure walking around there. So it does a really great job. Another thing that I like about it is the look. Not just the profile here, but the way that they have this paneling done kind of masks the toe box, because it is a very, very wide toe box. It's one of the wider ones of all the boots that we've gotten so far, but it doesn't look bad. When you look at something like a Barefoot Bruin, which has an extremely wide toe box, that thing just looks a little bit goofy. But these ones, I think, while they do kind of look a little bit goofy if you're not used to looking at barefoot shoes, with this panel, the way that they've done it, they've masked that really, really well. I also really like the lacing system that it has, in that it's got this one single speed hook there and a very wide opening that you can see. It's easy to slip on and off, and then you just use the speed hooks to get the laces in there and you're good to go. And then the last thing that I'll say about it is just I've really enjoyed this thing overall, like wearing it casually, wearing it on trails. And ever since the Boulder Boot Grip came out, that's been my go-to boot, unless I am trying something else out to review on the channel. But then this came along, and now I'm conflicted. Now I actually have a tough choice every single day when I'm just going out and getting to pick a boot that I want to wear just for me. It's a hard choice between this and the Boulder Boot Grip. So kudos to Lenka for making such an awesome boot that really has impressed us and that we've enjoyed using so much.
Need a barefoot shoe to replace your Vans or Chuck Taylors? Splay Shoes has the widest toe box and the most minimal soles we've found in a casual canvas shoe. With their new leather variations added to the mix, you can dress them up really nicely too. I actually love Splays as a go-to lifting shoe, and they are one of the most wallet-friendly barefoot brands available on the market. If you're interested in checking out Splay Shoes, head down to the link in the description where we also have a discount code that will save you 10%. Also, click the card you can see now up in the corner to navigate over to a playlist for all of our Splay shoe reviews.
So you're into the foot health benefits of barefoot shoes, and now you need to replace your whole closet. Look no further than Lems Shoes. They have shoes great for transitioning into minimalist footwear, as well as options that'll please the purists out there. And each one looks great. From barefoot sneakers and dress shoes to loungers or hiking boots, Lems has you covered with wide toe boxes, flat flexible soles, and some of the best looking designs out there. Find our link to their website down in the description.
Are you looking to take your barefoot shoe experience to another level? Then you're going to need a solid pair of toe socks that lets you take advantage of all that toe box. We love Creepers Toe Socks, a sock that beat out 6 other toe sock brands in a comparison video we did that you can see through the card up in the corner. Whether it's cold or hot, whether you're hiking, running, or lounging, Creepers Toe Socks will ensure that your feet stay comfy, dry, and healthy. If you're interested in checking out Creepers, head down to the link in the description and use our discount code to save yourself 15% off at checkout. My dislikes of the Lenka York are few and far between. I'm gonna get up nice and close to talk about them. This hole right here is not easy to close up no matter how tight I tie the boot. I don't want to tie it tight enough to close up that gap because then they're too tight. I might just have fat ankles. I don't know, but that hole is really hard to get rid of. You can kind of see it on the other side here as well. So you can see that we have a gusseted tongue, but it doesn't go up very high. And that's my critique. I always want gusseted tongues to go up as high as possible because I want to get my foot as deep in water as possible without actually getting water in our shoes. As I mentioned in my likes, this thing was completely waterproof for us. We danced around puddles and went through a stream and played with it a bunch in the water just to make sure. But the only time water ever got in was through this gap. So if the gusset was up here, that would help to close that gap and make the boot more waterproof. Now, they say the lining on this is water resistant, but I really think it's waterproof. Maybe if you were in the water for a couple hours, you'd get some things starting to leak through the materials. But for the about 20 minutes that we stood in running water, this thing was solid. So that's really my only dislike, but I think the best thing they could have done was move that gusset up just under the lace hook, and that would have made this thing just hard to argue with. With my dislikes out of the way, I'm gonna pass things over to Eric to talk about his dislikes. All right, doing something that I've never done before, but I've already filmed my review. This is days later, and I've had a little oopsie with the boot. So I actually wanted to take one of my likes, which you'll see in the like section. I'm not going to cut it out. I'm just going to change my mind and shove it right into the dislikes, and that is the lace hooks. As you can tell from me holding the lace hook in my hands, some kind of catastrophe has struck. I talked about in my likes how I thought that the setup of the lace hooks was streamlined enough that it wouldn't catch on anything. Well, I was walking in my garage kind of through a narrow space, so my feet had to come close together. I was trying to be careful carrying a baby, and as my left foot went past my right foot, the hook on my right inner ankle grabbed the lace on the left boot and ripped it out of the hole and ripped the boot here along that seam. You'll notice on the other side, that seam is solid right along here. And now we're torn, which sucks because I really, really liked this boot. I'm gonna try to fix it and we'll see how that goes because I would like to continue using it. But one, that seam shouldn't have been so easy to rip off. And two, lace hooks catching on things. My hatred for lace hooks is once again rekindled. I was starting to be convinced by other people, including Rosanville, who we've mentioned in this video, but I am sternly on the no lace hooks side of the aisle again because of this. I do still really like this boot, and I'm gonna try to fix it up as best as I can so that now that I've somewhat broken it, I can really put it through the ringer and see how it holds up. So the jury's not out on how well constructed this is yet. There will definitely be follow-up videos and toe-to-toes with other boots that will tell you a little bit more about the story of the construction. Anyway, just wanted to come in and put that live action update in here for you. Now I will actually be passing things over to Eric.
So despite all of the things that I like about the boot, there are definitely a few things that I don't like about it, and we saw Chris's experience with the construction and its durability, which is kind of questionable. That's a very common theme with a lot of barefoot boots, but I think one thing that's going on is that nubuck leather that this thing is made out of just isn't very thick. It's definitely a thinner piece of leather, and they could have made it sturdier if they had used a thicker leather instead. Another thing that I don't like about it is the merino wool lining, as well as the merino wool insole that it came with. I would have much rather this thing just had been like a simple insole that didn't have any insulating properties to it at all. Just a little bit of squish is kind of all that I want. This thing isn't as warm as the Feelgrounds Patrol Winter by any means. Like, my feet have never been too hot in it, but I do worry that I'm not going to get as much use out of it into the shoulder seasons as I could if it were more of a simple lining. Another thing that I'm not too happy about is the discoloration that's starting to happen on the leather right here. I don't know enough about coloring leather and stuff like that to really give any sort of analysis on that, but it is starting to discolor, and that happened only after a few hikes using it in the snow and dipping it in some water. And for all of that, it comes in at $209, which is definitely pricier among the barefoot boots that we've reviewed this fall and winter. The most expensive one being the Barefoot Bruin at $250, and then the least expensive was the Saguaro, which is like $109, I think. But $209 for this really is kind of pushing it. But even with all those negative things, I really have loved wearing this boot, and again, it has kind of compromised me, and I definitely have a tough decision every day now between this or the Boulder Boot Grip. So I think Lenka did a good job with it, and it is a boot that I definitely enjoy and would recommend if you can pony up the cash for it. Let's send it back over to Chris so that he can give us the outro for the video.
Folks, if you liked this video, we would appreciate it if you would like and subscribe. There's a handful of places where you can get extra content from us. If you want the most up-to-date, exclusive, behind-the-scenes content, head down to the link to go over to our Patreon page. We have some free stuff up there. One of those free things is an initial impressions review of the Lenka York. So my opinions of this shoe just a half an hour after unboxing it and wearing it around the house just a little bit. I'm going to be doing more initial impressions reviews on Patreon of other products, including shoes. And if you're interested in seeing those, then you do need to be a paid subscriber. The nice thing about our Patreon is it is only $1 a month to subscribe. Down in the description, you will also see a bunch of affiliate links to companies that we have partnered with, and if we have a discount code for those companies, that will be included next to the affiliate link. Make sure to follow along with us on Instagram, where I'm constantly doing unboxing videos of the products that we're working with, and then also Strava, which is a really cool platform where you can follow other people and see what kinds of activity they're doing. I post constantly about my weightlifting in my basement gym. Eric and I both post about our runs. We also post about our hikes, and then we post pictures and videos of us using the products that we're testing during all of those things. You can follow us, we'll follow you back so that we can see the kinds of things you're doing and the kinds of products you're using. We're building a really fun community on Strava. We're glad you're here, we appreciate your view, and as always, we will catch you in the mountains.